Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you are probably looking at what you're seeing on your screen now and thinking, what the F, right? What's going on here? So, okay, it's been a week. I'm back in my old office. I'm back into my normal, regular recording space, but you can see that it's completely disorganized, right? I was given notice at the end of last week that, tomorrow you're moving back. And so at the end, in the afternoon, I started moving boxes over here at the end of last week. And then this week, the new semester began. So I have not really had time to put things in their places. And no, I didn't come in on the weekend. I'm sorry. But so yes, things are still in process, right? And so the background is messy, disorganized, more disorganized than usual. And so I apologize for that. But I still wanted to get this recording done because I had a spread all laid out for us, ready to record, and it would be a shame for us to miss this wisdom from the universe, right? So, friends, we've got a spread all laid out. Before we start, I'd like to do a couple of things. One is say, I don't know, I'm feeling really off my base in a way. I feel really unused to recording now for some reason, even though it's not been all that long. Yeah, I missed my slotted recording day this week because of a minor catastrophe. And I'm in my old space again, which feels like a new space. It feels different. I'm feeling a little bit unsteady, even though I'm doing my best to ground. You know, we want to ground, right? So I'm feeling a little bit unsteady. So please be patient. The next thing I want to do is thank you for being here. Even though I am in this unsteady, uncertain state, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. And thank you for your patience with the disorganization of this room. I'd also like to thank you for doing those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button. I'd like to thank you for subscribing to the channel. All those things that you do help other people find us and join our community. So you're doing a service to other people. And commenting below. When you comment below, YouTube also sees that and says, oh, people are engaged. Maybe more people want to get engaged too. So other people can find us more easily. So thank you for doing all of those things that you do. And we're almost ready. We're almost ready to begin. What am I going to do? First, I will show you the spread for this week. I will, just in case you are new here, I will tell you what that spread is. We'll discuss the spread. We'll discuss the deck I'm using, only one deck. And then I will show you the spread again and we'll start reading it together in several different ways. Yes? Now, you know that this is my deep dive into the Lenormand year, right? It didn't start with January. I'm in the middle of my deep dive year. And so I hope that this is of benefit to you. I know it's been of benefit to me. And yeah, like I said, a little bit disorganized mentally, right? Friends, let me show you the spread. Here it is right now. Yes, there is one more thing that I forgot to mention. You probably already noticed, if you are a returning visitor, that I shaved off the beard, right? So if you were fond of it, I'm sorry. New semester is beginning, and honestly, the beard hurt my face a little bit. Yeah, the whiskers do not grow straight out of my skin. And so they are curly. And so they were curling back and poking me back in the face. Now, in these areas where there was more fur, if you will, that wasn't so much of a problem. There, beneath one hair, there was another hair to protect my face. But in these areas where the hairs were scant and sparse, those are the parts where the hairs were coming back, and they're pretty wiry hairs, and they were coming back and poking me like little needles in the face. And I tried shaving just that part, and people said I looked a little bit evil, so I just said, screw it, I'm getting rid of the whole thing. So I'm sorry if you liked it, but we're back to this. Maybe sometime in the future I'll try growing it again. Stay tuned, you never know. Okay, so friends, you just saw the spread for this week. Yes, it is a Lenormand spread. The deck I'm using is another deck by Robert M. Place. I love his artwork. I love the decks he produces. This deck is called the ukiyo-e Lenormand. Ukiyo-e. And ukiyo-e. I think that's how you pronounce it. I would have preferred if there were actual Japanese on the deck. Seeing the romanization of the word, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. But yes, this is a deck drawn from Japanese art. So Robert M. Place looked at Japanese art and used it as his inspiration for this deck, including some Japanese culture. And you saw some of the cards are different, not only in style, but in character, because this is an ostensibly Japanese-style deck, right? And we'll talk about that as we read the cards together. But it's a beautiful deck. I'm really happy I have it. I love seeing it on the table. I love seeing these cards together on the table. It's beautiful. But there are some differences. Not obstacles, but there are some differences. I love that there are very clear playing cards on the cards, right? You can see those playing card inserts, very clear. Easier to see than the Burning Serpent Lenormand, for example. So I love that. Many things I love about this deck. It's a little big for me for doing grand tableaus, which we're not doing today, but if I were to lay out all 36 cards in a grand tableau, the size is a little big for me, just saying. But it's beautiful, easy to shuffle, beautiful gold edging, beautiful deck. So that. Now the spread you just saw was the 9-card spread, or a picture frame spread, or a, there are other names for it. I just like calling it a 9-card spread because that's what it is, right? And we read this spread in a couple of different ways, right? We read it in columns from left to right, yeah, past, present, future. We also read it in rows, as in what's on our mind, what's in our conscious space, what's in the physical world around us, and then what's below the surface. That's how I read those. We read the cards in mirrors. We read the cards in corners and in diamonds. We also read the cards with knighting. So there are several ways to read this one, perhaps simple looking spread of 9 cards. And we're going to read them in many of those different ways. So the question we ask every week is, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? And this spread looks a little bit like me, a little insecure, a little bit unsure, yeah? But we'll see. We'll start reading the spread together. I will show you the spread once more, and let's dive in. Friends, here is this week's spread again. Friends, since I started recording this video, I realized I could do a little bit of research, and I did do a little research, and I found the correct pronunciation is ukiyo-e, the ukiyo-e Lenormand. And I also discovered that there is an ukiyo-e tarot. sold by US Games, which now I'm thinking maybe I'd like to get. I think that these might pair well together. The artists are different. Yeah, the ukiyo-e tarot is not done by Robert M. Place. It's by, I believe, a Japanese artist. But so now I'm kind of itching to get another deck. That's not good, is it? Maybe it is. We'll see. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. Oh, by the way, ukiyo-e means the floating world. So this is the floating world Lenormand, and the ukiyo-e tarot is the floating world tarot. Okay, so you just saw the spread again, right? You saw that in the top row from left to right, we had the heart, the coffin, and the woman. Yeah. Now the card names are a little bit different, right? The heart was actually kokoro for the heart. The coffin was actually emao, the coffin. And emao is actually the name of the god of the underworld, but still, he's seated behind a coffin, right? Then we had the woman, and we had below that, from left to right, the mice, the moon, which is kanon, which is the name for, well, that's, so, okay, I almost slipped into Korean. That is actually Gwanseum Bosal in Korean, or Gwanum, or Guanyin in Chinese, right? So, you recognize the image, even though the Japanese pronunciation is kanon. And then we had the star, just plain old star. And then below that, from left to right, we had the cross, which is called kamon in the Japanese card, right? We have the messenger and the stork. So those are the cards. And you know that I like to get a general sense of the spread before we actually dive in. And so what do we have here? We've got a fairly positive spread, generally, right? So we had the heart is positive, the coffin is neutral negative, the woman is neutral. So we've got one positive and one neutral negative. The mice below the heart, they're negative, so that kind of cancels out the heart. And the moon below the coffin, that's positive neutral, that kind of cancels out the coffin. The stars are positive. The cross is negative, so those cancel each other out. Now the rider is positive, and the stork is positive neutral. So we've got a fairly positive spread. The spread skews positive. And when we look at the playing cards, we can see that we have two clubs, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hearts. So the hearts far outweigh 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hearts. I'm sorry, we have 5 hearts playing cards to the 2 clubs. The hearts very strongly outweigh the 2 clubs. And that 1 spade for the woman is taken care of by the diamond in the coffin card. So we've got, even with playing card inserts, a very positive, warm, heart-filled spread, right? In fact, this whole spread feels very heart-centered, heart-centric, as we answer the question, how do we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? And we look at the central card of the spread as the significator card, right? So the significator card for this week's spread is Kanon, the moon, which again is the Japanese way of saying Guanyin, or in Korean, Gwanum, or Gwanseum Bosal, right? Which is the Buddha aspect, which is the aspect of mercy, right? It's the compassionate one. It's the one who says, I won't move on to nirvana until everybody can move on to nirvana with me. No? The Guanyin, the Gwanseum Bosal, the Gwanum is the one who hangs out behind to bless everybody and bestow mercy on everyone. Which is a very uplifting image for the moon card, right? So what is the moon? The moon, aside from being in this deck, Guanyin, Gwanum, Gwanseum Bosal, is the secondary heavenly body in the sky, right? For us here on Earth. The sun is the big, strong powerhouse, and the moon is the one that reflects the sun's energy most brightly most of the time. Of course, there are a couple of days when the moon goes dark. So we've got that idea of cycles, right? Things moving and changing. We get the idea of reflected light, soft light, the light of the night. So we've got the idea of maybe dreams and intuition. The moon controls the water on the planet. It pulls the waters of the ocean, so it pulls our unconscious. So we've got intuition, emotional life, dream life. All of that is part of the moon, right? But also traditionally, the moon is a card for recognition, reputation. That idea of rising, the moon rises. So just like the sun, of course, the sun also rises. Name of a very good book, but the moon also rises. And so we got that idea of success, rising success. And for me, when I first learned Lenormand, the moon was the card for the heart business. The anchor is the card for, the way I learned it, was the card for the job, the income that keeps our lives stable and secure. The moon is the card for the side hustle, and not the side hustle to get more money, but the side hustle because we love it. The thing that we do because we love it, not because we are trying to get money necessarily. Yeah, you got that distinction, I think. So the moon is all of those things. What is it for this spread? Well, I think we're leaning towards our emotions here for this spread. Why? Because we always read this, I always read this card in relationship to the card in the upper left-hand corner. These two cards in relationship give us the primary message of the spread. And the card that is up there in that corner is what? It's, well, the heart card, right? The heart card, which here is a plant. The kokoro, which is a plant, and then which is a plant. We have a heart-shaped plant, but here we have the, I'm sorry, I'm not saying this clearly enough. So we have the plant, a Japanese plant of flowers shaped like hearts. Beautiful plant. We also have a character, a written character here at the top, right? In Korean, this character is pronounced e. In Japanese, according to, I'm sorry, not e, it's pronounced shim. It's shim. This is shim, which is for the heart, right? In Japanese, it's pronounced kokoro, which means heart, which means mind and emotions. It also means, it is also part of the name of the bleeding heart flower, which is what this is called. This is down here, the bleeding heart flower. Now, heart, mind, what am I talking about? I don't know if you know this, but in the West, we perhaps unnecessarily separate the concept of mind and emotion. We separate the ideas of our thoughts, our rational minds, and our emotion. We do not do that in the East, right? Mind in the East is all of that. It's our thoughts, it's our emotions, our feelings. All of that is mind. All of the experience that we have in the conscious world is mind. You understand? So that's why this card here, in the more East Asian context especially, does not separate the idea of thoughts and emotions. It's all one thing, right? The mind, heart-mind. So this, according to Robert M. Place, is part of the idea of this card in his deck. But what is the heart? Even in the Western side of things, what is the heart? It's the seat of our emotions, right? It's the seat of love. It's the thing that pumps all of the blood around our bodies, right? And it's what keeps us alive. It's what enlivens us. It's what moves us and motivates us. So, what is the heart card? It can be the emotion of love, like romantic love or familial love or even platonic love. But it can also be the loving of doing something that you do. It's that thing that gets us excited about doing the work that we do, about loving our jobs, right? So there's also joy here. This is also a positive yes card for the Lenormand deck. Now we've got a Jack of Hearts here, so there could be an attractive or friendly fellow coming into our experience here. Someone who looks out for the younger and weaker people around us. That would be nice. So if you've got somebody like that in your life, you can add that idea, that person into the mix of this reading if you like. So we've got the heart card and the moon card together as being the first primary strong statement of this spread, right? The heart card and the moon card together. So we've got a couple of things. And I'm starting to expand my understanding of the spread as I read it here with you. So we've got that idea of love and emotions, yeah? Love, joy, emotion. So this spread is about our love, joy, and emotions. But if you've got a heart business like I've got a heart business, which is cartomancy and tarot, yeah? If you've got a heart business, it could also be that, because remember, the heart card is also loving something that you do. And the moon card, the way I learned it, is that side gig, the thing that we do because we love it. So these two together emphasize that idea of doing that thing that we love. But it could also be about our emotions. And they're both important things when we consider living life intentionally, right? Because if we think of our emotions as a scale, and it's a very helpful way to think of emotions, especially when we want to live life intentionally. If we think of our emotions as a scale, and we think of the lower negative emotions such as hopelessness or disempowerment or the feeling of worthlessness or of depression and despair. And what is I'm reaching for a word that is stronger than fear, terror. Okay? Perhaps that is at the very bottom of the emotional scale. Then up here at the top, we have things like love, joy, feeling of well-being, feeling of clarity and pure awareness. Right? And then we've got all these emotions that we label in between. Now, the higher we are on that emotional scale, the more open we feel. Right? When you feel love, when you feel joy, don't you feel open? When you feel worthless or depressed or terrified or powerless, don't you feel closed? So what does this have to do with living an intentional life? Intention is a power. We can think of intention as a strong current that moves us in the direction of the life that we want to live, into becoming the people that we want to be, to have the experiences we want to have in life. And the more open we feel, the more open we are to taking advantage of that powerful flow of intention. The more closed off we feel, the more defensive or protective or incapable we feel, the more closed down we feel, the less access we have to that powerful current of intention. So, this spread is pointing towards, I think, our opening. The way to live life more intentionally is by doing this thing of joyful emotions, loving emotions, and doing the things that we love. The more we do the things that we love, the more love we will express in the world, and the more open we will be to the power of intention. Make sense, no? Yes? So that's where we begin. But we've got a whole spread to read, right? So we're going to start with past to future, from the left to the right. And so in the left-hand column, where we're coming from, we started off with the heart, and then below the heart, we have the mice. Now the mice are read directionally, but the directions for the mice are left and right. But we're reading right now top to bottom. So that directional aspect is not in play right here. Love this card. I love that the mice are here in front of these two, I would call them mandarin oranges. In Korea, we would call them gyul or gyulgam. I'm not sure what the Japanese name for this fruit is, but it's a kind of small citrus, very much like an orange, or what we would call a mandarin orange in English, right? So these mice are in front of these gorgeous oranges, which echo the idea of moon to me, but that's tangential. It echoes more the idea of the sun, and the sun isn't really here in the spread, so never mind. But these mice are in front of these oranges. But do you also see the silkworm? Do you see the silkworm here on the card? Robert Place put these mice here in this setting because in Japan, let me see if I can... Okay, so wait a second. I thought I had seen a silkworm because the guidebook to the spread talks about silkworms, but I guess that there isn't a silkworm. Never mind, there is no silkworm. But the guidebook talks about the mice in Japan being strongly disliked because they eat silkworms, and silk is important to make clothes in Japan. Now the silkworms, they get the silk, they make kimonos and other garments in Japan. So mice are a bad thing. So what are mice for us? For us humans, they tend to be pests. They eat away at our resources, right? They sneak into our storage areas or our homes, and they go after our food, usually just our food, but sometimes they eat other stuff. They can end up eating documents sometimes. They eat paper. They eat through containers for our storage of food, right? They eat through the bag of the flour bag. They eat through the boxes of the cracker boxes. They eat through the containers to get to the food. But sometimes, again, they just eat stuff, right? Sometimes they'll gnaw at paper, at books. Weird-ass thing to do to me. They're not typically known to eat trees from what I understand, but still they'll eat our paper sometimes. So, yeah, the mice. One mouse in your house, a little annoying, not a huge problem. But mice sometimes come in packs, right? So when they come in packs, especially to a storehouse of grain or other food products, then it becomes a bigger problem. So the mice are what? The mice are eating away. But they don't only eat, they also poop, right? They crap, they shit. So the mice can also be the dirtying of things, the gnawing away and the dirtying of things, losing things incrementally, undermining what we're trying to do. They could also indicate our worries or our little problems in our life, right? Also, theft of things. I don't think theft is going to be part of this spread, but it could be the theft of things. And not exactly theft the same way a fox in Lenormand would be theft. The fox steals whole chickens and takes them away, but taking away little things, right? Like the stealing of paper clips from an office, that kind of little theft kind of stuff, right? Now, if we were mice, on the other hand, if we were mice, what would we be thinking? Well, we are persistent, right? We keep gnawing away at things until we get what we want. We are resourceful. Not necessarily as clever as the fox is, but we are resourceful. We can get into places that we want to get into, even though the holes are very small, and we find ways to get to where we want to go, to do the thing we want to do, to eat the stuff we want to eat. Right? So the mice are all of that. It's the eating away, the dirtying, the losing of things, the worries, the problems. But they are persistent and resourceful. Yeah? So what does that have to do with our heart in the past? Well, we're moving away from perhaps a time of our hearts being gnawed away. Maybe worries have been weighing on our hearts. Maybe little problems have been weighing on our hearts in the recent past. Why do I say that? I say that because that has led to this card, which is the cross. Now, in this deck, you see this cross is not a standard, typical Christian cross, right? This is a pattern of dying, and this is a symbol for a familial clan. Now, in Japan, familial clans have been traditionally very important. As important as, for example, in Scotland, where they would have the tartan for their clan. Here in Japan, they would have these symbols for their clan, for their house. And this is a symbol for a clan in Japan, shaped like a cross. And this kind of pattern would be dyed onto the clothing or part of the clothing of servants and of family members, so people could recognize each other from a distance. Yeah, okay, so, especially in war. So, the cross. What is a cross? We still carry the idea of the Christian cross into the Lenormand through this card. And the Christian cross is a card of burdens, right? It's the symbol of the torture tool that Jesus was forced to carry through the streets of Jerusalem until he reached the place of his torture to death, right? That's what the cross is. And other Christian martyrs, well, also other people, the thieves were also put up on crosses. It's the place where we put the people we want to show the rest of our society are bad people, and so we're torturing them to death. That's a way of putting their torture and punishment on display for the rest of society. Right? But it's also a symbol of spirituality, because for modern Christian people, and remember, the Lenormand was developed in a very Christian society. So for modern Christian people, it's also a sign of resurrection, of spiritual connection, of suffering for the redemption of self and other. Other being other people, right? Or the world. So what is the cross for us here in this spread? I think we're leaning more in the direction of burdens, rather than fate or destiny or spirituality. Now, I read the cross directionally. And there are 4 directions for the cross. Up, down, left, and right. Yeah? Cards at the top, those cards, they're lifted up. They are pushed up in a positive direction. Perhaps by destiny, according to some readers that I've studied. The cards on the right, they are enforced and strengthened. Unfortunately, we have no cards on the right in this spread, right? We only have cards on the left and above. Cards on the left, I'm sorry, wait a second. No. I'm sorry. I just read this wrong. Okay, so the cards on the right, we do have cards on the right. Cards on the right are enforced and strengthened. Yeah, so we have all the rest of the spread going this way and this way. Cards on the left, those are like the cutoff point. It's like this becomes a period, end of sentence, nothing more. Cards below, that's where the burden rests most heavily. So the mice, interestingly, in this spread, with the cross being a burden or fate or destiny. So it feels like these problems that have been weighing on our hearts are being lifted up. Maybe they're lifted up and they're burdensome, but they're burdensome for our benefit. Maybe they're burdensome. Maybe these things that are, these problems and things that are gnawing away at our hearts in the past, and we're moving from that, are here for our growth, for our expansion. Because if we solve these problems, if we can work our way through these problems and move past this burden, we will experience something else. And let's see what this spread is telling us that something else might be. We start off with the coffin, right? The coffin is what? The coffin is where we put bodies, and I'm just suddenly struck with the memory of seeing a body yesterday. What do I mean? As I was riding to school, no, I did not see a body lying in the street. As I was riding to school, I saw two men rolling a gurney, a gurney, with a shrouded body on it, covered from head to toe with a sheet, face covered, whole thing. And of course, that is the sign of death, right? That somebody died. That's why their whole body is covered with a white sheet. It's true here in Korea, true in the United States, true in Europe, I'm sure, true in Australia, other places as well, I'm assuming. It seems like that is the universal human signifier of dead human, right? So I saw somebody, a dead body, being carried out on a gurney as I was riding by. And then I was wondering, why are they rolling this body out of a home or a living structure, like a flat, in the middle of the day here? And then I saw the ambulance. So they were moving this poor dead person to an ambulance. And so I just flashed on that with this card here, this idea of endings and coffins and finishes, the end of life, right? It's a sign of the end of life, of putting an end to things, of closing things up. We close the body up in this coffin, right? And then we bury it in the ground, so we don't see it anymore. And there are other reasons, decomposition and public safety and public health, etc. But and as leaving aside aesthetics, right? There's the body that's left behind that we put into a coffin and we say goodbye, and then we get rid of it. We hide it, we bury it. So the coffin is all of these things, but there's also the mourning ritual that, and I don't mean like morning, afternoon, evening, but mourning, sorrow, the mourning ritual that accompanies crosses. So what is the coffin card for us? It's endings, it's finishes, it's losses. It can also be renewal. I mean, in the Christian context, the coffin is buried and the body is preserved down there with the hope of resurrection, right? So there could be renewal from the coffin as well. But right here, right now, we've got mourning. We have empty, the empty feeling in our lives. It could also be ill health. It could actually be death. It could be stagnation. Yeah. I mentioned that Emmao is the god of the underworld, right? So the god of the underworld is here sitting on top of, or sitting behind and watching over the coffin. Now, I don't read Lenormand as I would read a tarot card, where the image on the card is going to affect my reading because this one has a god sitting on it and the other one card does not have a god sitting on it, so I'm going to read this card differently than a coffin card from another deck. I'm not saying that. It's just interesting, right? But I am going to read the coffin card like I always read a coffin card. And the coffin is also potentially read directionally. So the head, where the head is, it's a strong end, and where the feet are, it's a diminishing end, the way I was taught. So this coffin does not show a clear head or foot. So I'm going to say the head I'm going to say that the head is here and the feet are here. Does that make sense? That the upper part is the head, the lower part is the feet? And generally, just height-wise, this is higher than this, so this is the head. So what's on this side of the card? On this side of the card, we have the partner card. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not there yet, are we? Yeah, we're not reading the row, we're reading the column. So even though this card is read directionally, we're not there yet. So we're looking at an ending, right? Finish, loss, a feeling of something coming to an end. And we're not a happy end, but maybe a mourning, a sadness end. And what seems to be coming to an end is our emotions. Maybe we feel some kind of ending happening with our heart business, our heart business. The thing that we do because we love, because we are amateur. You know what amateur means? Yeah? An amateur is one who does it because they love it, as opposed to one who does it professionally for money. One who does it because they love the thing is an amateur. It doesn't mean that the person is necessarily less skilled than the professional. Look at Olympic sports. They should all be amateur, right? Not professional. Now, we started to muddy that up when we started allowing professional basketball players to play basketball in the Olympics, but traditionally, Olympics is for the amateur, the one who does it for the love of it, not professionally. But that, again, does not mean that Olympic athletes are less talented than professional athletes. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite. So, in the thing that we do because we love it, because we are amateur, we might be feeling some kind of an ending to that. But I want to recall the grammar of Lenormand a little bit more clearly. And more clearly, the way that we're reading this column right now, the main idea is the ending, not the heart. It's not like an ending to the heart. It's the ending is described by our so maybe it's an emotional ending. Maybe it's an an ending that seems a little bit dreamlike, or because it's being modified by the moon, right? Or maybe we're in an ending cycle. So remember, we're coming from this past, right? The past of our hearts being eaten away and it being a burden but maybe beneficial. So we're moving from that into the present where there's an ending. And maybe it's that ending is to that eating away that we've been experiencing, those problems. Maybe we're doing the evolutionary work that we want to do or that is helpful for us, and that is what the ending is. And that is caused by what? It's caused by the writer. And the writer is who? It's a person, generally a male figure in the deck, but a person who rides in with news, who rides in. So it can be news, something that jumps into our lives. It could be messages, quick messages. Messages that come quickly, as opposed to the letter, which takes a little bit more time. Right? The writer rushes the message into us. Think the Pony Express in old Western United States history kind of thing. If you know anything about the Pony Express, it will be meaningful for you. It's that quickly arriving message. It's also the movement that's implied by that. It's movement. Things are going smoothly. It could be somebody entering our lives, right? Somebody riding in. It's the message, but it's also the person coming into our lives, right? So, and that person could be youthful, athletic, maybe informative, maybe dynamic. A writer is a dynamic kind of person, not somebody who's out taking a leisurely stroll or lazy and sitting in a chair. This writer is an active person, a communicative person, an outgoing person. Could be a lover. For some people, it could be a gay man, which is an interesting reading, but that's one modern reading for the writer. So what is that telling us? And I love this image of the guy on this horse. So we've got this idea of an emotional, maybe a little bit dreamy, hazy kind of ending, maybe a little less clear ending that comes from maybe a message that we receive, or maybe news coming into our lives, maybe, or maybe somebody entering our lives. Maybe that is what brings an end to this haze, to these emotional, it's on this side, this emotional gnawing away, or the gnawing away of our emotions, right? The eating away of our emotions. The loss of emotions. Emotions being lost, being eaten away. And so we move into look at our future, right? The future begins with what? Begins with the woman card. The woman card, love this woman in the kimono. Love her. Love her gown. Love her kimono. And the circles on her kimono make me think of the oranges in the mice card, which reminds me of the silkworm that was in the book, which reminds me again of the silk of the kimono. Yeah? So maybe what rises out of the coffin from our present moment in the future is a partner. Now remember, I'm reading for you through me. So, because I'm reading for you through me, the man card would be the significator for all of us, whether you're in a male body, a female body, an intersex body, a trans body, a cis body, a non-binary body, whatever we want to call ourselves. Reading through me for you, the man card is us, and the woman card is partner. Okay? So, this is a card for partner for us. But also our receptivity and our intuition. And the woman card moves to the moon, through the game of hope that the Lenormand is based on, the woman card moves to the moon card. So if you were to land on the woman card, you would move forward to the moon card. And if you landed on the man card, you'd move forward to the sun card. That was how the game of hope was played. So there's a connection between the woman and the moon in this deck as well, which is interesting. So our partner is a partner of emotion in this spread because the moon is here central, right? The center card for this whole spread is the moon, which is emotion and intuition and dream life. So the partner is an intuitive partner and a love partner rather than an emotional connection partner rather than a work partner, right? There's an emotional connection with this partner. And she is modified by what? By the star. The star, that bright, well, not as bright as the sun, not as bright as the moon, but still a bright light in the night sky, right? Something we can see in the night and something that we can use to guide ourselves, especially if we know anything about old world navigation. The star, are the North Star that points our way. The star that showed the way to the Christ child for the three magi from West Asia, right? Stars point our ways. It also could be the reading of stars, of astrology. So if your partner's an astrologer, here we go. That could be for you. But for me, my partner is not an astrologer. So this is what? The stars are good fortune. Dreams coming true. It could be destiny and guidance and prophecy. It could be spirituality and psychic energy as well, coming through that idea of the effect of this divine celestial realms on us. So our partner that we're moving towards in the near future is a partner of good fortune. Maybe one of destiny. Maybe one that will help us find our guidance, one that can help point our way, right? And the wonderful thing about this is the very next, the card right beneath the stars card is the stork. And what is a stork? Now the stork is an interesting creature. The stork is a creature that migrates. They build big, strong, and durable nests. And then they also fly thousands of miles, thousands and thousands of kilometers to escape the winter, and then they come back again after the seasons change, right? So there's a migration idea of moving from one place to another. They're also, in the context of Western European society where this deck was created, they're also the bringers of babies, right? So there's the idea of pregnancy there too, but that's a very rare thing. If there was a stork and a baby together and maybe a ring, I don't know, there could be a possible pregnancy or a giving birth element to a reading. I don't see that in this spread, but the stork is a card of positive changes, movement and transitions, things developing, right? And not always as expected. It could be a surprising change, an unexpected change, but a change for the better, not a small change, not like the clover card with it's a small change of luck, but a large change, a transition, a life transition. Now we also have a queen here, the Queen of Hearts, right? Where is the card on here? Yeah, you see the Queen of Hearts up here in this corner? So if it's a person, it could be a gentle, home-loving woman. A female friend, perhaps, a sister, a mother. Maybe a nurse or a caregiver. A woman who would identify as woman-ish person. Who is that? All of those things. Gentle, caring, caregiving, home-loving, full of love and homeliness. Not homely as in ugly or unattractive, but homely, of the home, right? So, what is this telling us? That our partner, who is the bringer of hope, perhaps the pointer of our destiny that we're moving towards, points us towards a change of life, an improved state of life in the future. So we do have that positive movement in the spread, even though we started from a fairly negative beginning of our hearts and our love and joy being eaten away and burdened down. We went to a present moment ending, and we're moving towards a partner who brings direction towards a new phase of our lives. And that partner could be a new person, but it could be, if you're married, it could be your husband, wife, non-binary spouse, whoever that person is that you are in relationship with. It could be that same person. I'm not saying that necessarily somebody new has to come in and that you're going to be experiencing a breakup or you have experienced a breakup. That's not necessarily what this spread is pointing towards. It could be a revitalization and a revitalization of your current relationship that points us in the direction of our powerful current of intention. Does that make sense? Now, friends, we're going to read not rows now. Yeah? We're going to read in rows, and we start up the top row. What's on our minds? What's on our minds is, we start off with the heart and the coffin. So here's where, let me make sure I got these in the correct order. Here's where the coffin's directionality comes into play. Yeah? So our hearts, our love, our joy, our ability to love what we're doing, right? There's an ending here. There's an ending to that. It could be a boxing up, but right now, what it feels like is right now at this moment in time, remember, we're moving into a brighter future, but at this moment in time, we may be feeling like there's an ending to our love and our joy. And that ending is a diminishment, right? It's a diminishing ending because remember I said this is the head and this is the foot. The thing at the foot is a diminishing end. So it may feel like, and remember that we said that the coffin seemed like a hazy, emotional kind of ending. It might be because it's not a sharp, clear ending, but it's this diminishment ending indicated by the coffin. So there's our love and joy is ending, and maybe because of a strong feeling of loss or emptiness with our partners. So maybe we've been feeling some problems with our partners recently. Have you been feeling problems with your partner? If you have, let me know in the comments below. And it doesn't necessarily mean divorce. It means difficulty, struggle, little problems that have been building up, weighing up on us, right? That seems to be what this spread is pointing towards right now. Especially looking at this next column, what's this next row? What's happening with us in the world around us? Yeah? We start off with the mice. Now remember, we're reading horizontally and the mice are read directionally in that direction, right? The part where the mouth is what's being eaten away. The part where the butt is what's being dirtied. And you can guess why. So we have the cards in this order, right? The mice and then the moon. So that stuff on our mind, what is the effect in our world? Well, to me, most of the mice's mouths are pointing this way. So this would be what's being eaten away, but there's nothing there. Their butts all seem to be pointing in this direction, so this is where the poo is coming out. So what's being dirtied is our emotions. Our emotions are being dirtied. Maybe even our heart job, the thing that we do because we are amateur. Maybe our heart job is also feeling the effect of what's weighing on our minds, right? This ending of our love and joy is weighing on us and affecting our heart business and also our emotions, maybe even affecting our sleep, and maybe even affecting our ability to intuit. Have you felt any of that in your world these days? If you have, this reading is probably for you. I know this reading is definitely for me. I can see how this reading really did point me in the direction of the way this week has been going. Yeah? But the thing is that this feeling of our hearts being dirtied winds up with good fortune. Yeah? So our emotions are dirtied, our feeling of the love of the work that we do is dirtied, it's sullied. But like a lotus rising from the muck, to keep with the more Eastern Asian metaphors, like a lotus rising from the muck, our hope, our fortune, right? Our direction, we find our direction coming from that. Our destiny, our guidance comes and rises from that muck, from that dirtied heart, rises our direction in the real world. So this is a practical thing. We find our guidance, we find the direction of what we want to do through this experience of our emotions and our love of doing what we're doing being sullied by the thoughts that we're having, right? So what's going on below the surface of all of this? Okay, potential titles are swimming around in my head, but let's start off with the cross. Cross, right? Burdens, but also spirituality, fate. So but I think we're going to keep this card as the burden, our burdens. Now, the card on the right is enforced, it's strengthened. So, the burdens that we have are very strongly coming from information that we're getting from people around us. Yeah, from messages coming into us, by quick, maybe rapid fire even, messages coming to us. Or from people popping up into our lives and are really feeling burdened because of that. And it's not a conscious burden, it's a below the surface, rumbling kind of burden, right? But that burden from within, that weighing down of in our unconscious, just like the star rising from the muck, our transition springs forth from that burden. It's like we've got something weighing us down and we squeeze out and pop out and boom, we're ready to fly off to our new life. Right? Or it could be that without our really without our really noticing it, our unconscious, our below the surface rumbling burden is being affected by information coming in. And that maybe allows us to spring to what? What do we call it when take off? To take off like the stork, to fly off to our new life. Which could be physically moving somewhere else, but is most probably going to be a more life-changing, and it doesn't need to be a complete life-changing thing like this was a life-changing event, but something new, a transition. We're beginning a new phase of our journey. Yeah? Not talking things like retirement or, again, divorce or, what? Being released from prison. Not necessarily talking about, if you're in prison and you happen to be watching this, thank you. And I hope that your transition from this stork is a beautiful, wonderful liberation. But probably that's not what we're talking about, right? So we're released from that burden. And that burden could have been created by information coming in, or the information coming in could be the reason for our being able to release ourselves, liberate ourselves. And I think it is a liberation of self, assisted by our partner. Loving partner, who helps point the way. And then now I've gotten more clarity on what the potential title for this video is going to be. Assisted that sounds like assisted living. Anyways, so I'll land on a title. Maybe as we take this break, I'm going to show you the spread once more, because we're going to read the spread in a couple of different ways. And I want you to see those cards in relationship to each other once more. So you can see the corners, you can see the diamond. Maybe we might even look at mirrors. I don't know. We might look at knighting. I'm not sure what I would want. I might want to knight the coffin to see what the significance of that is. So we'll look at those things. But first, let me show you the 9-card spread once more. I'll think of the title. You look at the cards. And then we'll start reading this spread in another couple of ways. Okay, friends? Here's the spread. Friends, while you were looking at that spread, I came up with the title. And I did debate. I bounced it around. And if you know me, I tend to like longer titles. But I think that one word really does, so I think I've got it. Liberation of the Heart. Yeah, Liberation of the Heart is the title of this video. And I just realized why I wanted to choose that, because, well, I'll get there. Okay, so I'll get there right now. Let's look at the corners first. Yeah, the corners. So the first pair of corners we have are the heart and the stork. And then we have the partner, the woman, and the cross. So, this is why I just came up with, or just landed on Liberation of the Heart. Because of the heart and the stork being in relationship to each other in this spread. Both of these corners cross through the moon card, which is, again, our emotions, but also perhaps our heart business, yeah? But these two together, we have our love and our joy, bringing that transition, bringing that movement and positive change in our lives comes from love. Now it's like here, our heart flies off into a new life here in the near future. And allowing that to happen is how we're going to live our lives more intentionally. Does that make sense? So yeah, here, our hearts are liberated. We are free to fly, to find our new home. Not necessarily with different people. It could be finding our new home in the houses we're living in with the partners we're living with. If you're living in a house with a partner, for example. It doesn't mean you all got to go out and find somebody new. That's not what we're talking about here. I mean, you can if you want to, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about our hearts finding their liberation and transition and movement to positive change. And it might be a bit surprising. We might not be expecting where we're going, but it's going to be good. Yeah? Now the next pair of corners are not so good. Yeah? We got the woman and the cross. So our partner, who's connected to our intuition and our emotions, and maybe even our heart business. Maybe we've been feeling burden from that partner recently. Maybe we've been feeling burden from that partner, but also that partner is probably our destiny, our fate. That we have a spiritual connection to this partner. Which is why in the near future, this partner is also the one who is going to be leading us or helping point us in the direction of our new life and our good fortune. This way for you. Our good fortune, our new life. Now that can happen in a couple of ways because we're reading for a collective, right? It could be that we stay with this partner and we journey with this partner into that new life. Sometimes the person who causes or is the one we blame for the burden that we feel, sometimes they're actually the ones who also help us get out of that burden and we continue journeying into our good fortune with that person, right? That makes sense? Could also be something different. It could be the leaving behind of an old partner and finding a new one. It could be that. So, this is where we reflect on ourselves and our lives and find out which direction this spread seems to be pointing for us. I'm not saying you have to go out and get a divorce. I'm not telling you don't get a divorce if that seems correct for you. And I'm not saying it has to be that extreme either. It's not necessarily as extreme as getting a divorce or not getting a divorce. It could just be letting somebody go, right? Or not letting somebody go, letting them help journey with us through this. Even though we seem to be blaming them, journeying with us through this transition to our new flight into a new aspect of life. Does that make sense? They could be joining us on this journey of liberation, or we might be going off on our own. And that's for us individually to reflect on, but one way or the other, that's how we're going to be able to live our lives more intentionally in the coming week, yeah? Now we've got a diamond. Yeah? So the way I read the diamond is this. What's happening with the coffin? Now the coffin and the mice are related. So there's an ending to this eating away, this dirtying and eating away that is being caused by worries, by discomfort, by problems, little niggling problems. Yeah. They're not necessarily, or they probably aren't, the big, knockdown, life-defying problems of things like bad health diagnoses, or foreclosures on your home and bankruptcy, or death of loved ones, or divorce. Yeah. Devastating accidents. That's not the kind of problem we're talking about. We're talking about little everyday problems that eat away at us, right? So that's what could be causing this endingness that we're feeling in this spread, which I think we've already talked about, so I probably don't need to, as they say, beat a dead horse. On the other hand, our good fortune, our direction from the star, maybe even our destiny and our guidance, seems to be coming from news coming into our lives, from messages, could be written messages. Maybe somebody new is coming into our life. If that happens for you, good on you. Good on you. But it could be things starting to go smoothly. Maybe we'll be entering a period of things going smoothly and allowing us that space for the star to rise, for our good fortune to be both visible and accessible to us, for us to be able to see the guidance that is available to us at all times. We always have guidance available to us. Do you believe that? It is true. We always have guidance available to us if we have eyes to see and ears to hear. It's always there. The divine spirit, non-physical, our higher selves, I don't like that term higher, but our eternal natures are not withholding information or waiting, okay, I'm not going to say anything until that person's ready. That's not how it works. We're constantly given help, guidance, direction. The question is, are we looking? Are we listening? Are we open to it? And maybe we've got, perhaps with the writer, also having that idea of things going smoothly. If things start going smoothly, then we can relax into and open up to our hearts and then see, this is what I should be doing. This is where I want to go. This is my path. This is my journey. And allows us to transition into that next stage. Yeah? Whoops, I've got this wrong. Okay, I placed the cards in the wrong place for just a moment. I confused myself. So, let's look at mirrors a little bit. Let's look at mirrors. And one pair of mirrors that really stands out to me is this one. The heart mirrors the woman. So partner, right? This really is this future-facing partner. It really does feel like a heart partner, a love partner, and a positive partner, someone that is going to be beneficial for us. Right? Interestingly, the mice mirror the star. The mice mirror the star. So I think in this pairing, because we're looking towards a more positive future, I think this pairing is reminding us that persistence and resourcefulness will help us move in the direction of our good fortune and our dreams coming true, yeah? Of our guidance being found, of our spiritual psychic energy being released from its prison. Right? And the cross mirroring the stork. Now, the stork is positive change, and the positive change flies away from our burden, right? But maybe it's also a spiritual transition. Maybe it's a more spiritual transition in our lives rather than a transition in work or even a transition in relationship, right? It's not a transition from it's not moving from the ring. It's not like we're flying off from or with the ring, which is contracts or marriages, but rather it's flying off with and from the cross. So maybe this is a spiritual transition for us, a spiritual movement or a movement in our lives that is being not that we are moving in the direction of with our partner who is helping to point our way and show us the way, pointing out that star in the sky. Look up there, we can go there. Oh yes, we can go there, and then we go there together. Does that make sense? It's not like we're like, I don't know where to go, and our partner grabs us by the collar and says, come this way. That's not what we're talking about here, right? The partner is here with us and says, oh, look up that. Well, let's go that way. That makes sense, I believe, doesn't it? The partner points it out, but we go together. We see together, we follow together. A transition in love, a transition of love. Yeah? Does that make sense? If it does, let me know. Oh, coffin. I'm sorry. Coffin. I wanted to look at the knighting for the coffin. Knighting, just in case you don't remember what that is. That means like knights on a chessboard. A knight can move in 4 different ways. Actually, maybe 8 different ways, because they can move forward and backward. But they move 1 space forward and then 2 spaces to the right or the left. Or they move 2 spaces forward and 1 space to the right or the left. Right? Or backwards the same way. So it's always 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. Now, the coffin being at the very top can only go this way, right? Now, if we go, and it's because it's in the center, if we go down 1, we can't go 2 over this way because there's no card over there. So there's really only one direction for this coffin to knight, and that's down 2, 1, 2, to the messenger, to the right, the writer, and then over 1. So that puts these 2 cards in relationship to the coffin, right? The cross and the stork. And the message that came directly when I said that was remember that cross is the ending, right? The ending of burden and release to the new. Right? The ending of burden and the release to the new. The ending of burden and release to the new. That makes sense to me. That gives us evidence that points in the direction of the way this spread is leaning. Yeah? And maybe, and again, maybe the burden was the burden that we feel and we're being released. Both the reason that we're feeling the burden and our way to release ourselves from the burden, both might be our partners. Maybe we're misreading our partner. So what does this mean for our lives? What does this mean for us now in our lives? Have you ever had a time when you were feeling like your relationship with someone you are in a loving relationship with, whether it's a partner, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, non-binary romantic interest, someone that you were in a strong, loving relationship with? Probably a romantic relationship. Have you ever felt the relationship is burdensome in any way? Do you know how that feeling is an indication that we are cutting ourselves off from the power of intention, from our ability to access the powerful force of intention, movement of intention through space-time, the universe? Do you know that? Okay, so have you also ever noticed that sometimes it's the person that we seem to be blaming for that feeling of burden is also the one who points us in the direction of release from that burden? That's something we've been talking about, or I've at least hinted at, if not said out and out, in the reading of this spread. So how can we live our lives more intentionally? If we are feeling that burden with our loving interest, whatever that relationship happens to be for you, with our loving interest, our interest of love, and we are blaming that person, we think that person is the cause of our feeling burden, we want to open up to the possibility that they're also the ones who are going to point out our liberation from that burden and our path forward into a new stage of our lives. Have you ever had that experience in the past? If not, this may be the time for us to open up to that possibility. Just because we feel the burden of a relationship with somebody that we claim and believe that we love does not necessarily mean that this is the end of that relationship. Doesn't mean you're stuck in the relationship either. I'm not trying to say that at all. If this is time for you and you've been thinking it is time for you to end the relationship, yes. Especially if it's an abusive relationship, if there are any problems like that, definitely. If it's time to find an escape hatch, find the escape hatch. If you need help doing that, there is help available to you. If you want help finding that help, reach out to me privately. I will help you. Probably not directly because I doubt that we're in the same country, but I will help you. I will find a way to help you. But for most of us, I think, sometimes when we feel that burden and we blame our loving partner, even if rationally the reasons that we're giving, the story we're telling about that burden may be factually true, the way out of that burden might still be that same partner. How can that happen? I'd like to hear your ideas, but let me give you a couple right now. First thing that comes to mind is communication. Yeah? Maybe we're the writer in this situation sometimes. We're the one who goes out and gives information that, look, I'm feeling burdened. I'm feeling a problem. And I'm not saying I want to break up. I'm not saying I want a divorce. I'm not saying I don't want to be in relationship with you. But I'm feeling burdened. Help. Please help. Let's work through this together. Let's find our path and move on to a new stage of our relationship. Yeah? And if we can open to ourselves to doing that, we're also opening up, even if it's just a little bit of a crack, we're opening up just a little bit, if not more, to the power of intention. And once a little bit more intention comes flooding through, comes rushing through that small crack in the door that we have given, the door will swing open. And we'll be able to take off and soar and fly off into the next stage of our journey together. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. It makes sense for me. So friends, here we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for walking through this awkward stumble through of this spread. Thank you for hanging in there with me as I transition from one recording area to another. And if you want a private reading from me, my email address is below, but also in just a moment I will show you a QR code and the address for my online tarot shop. Either scan that QR code or type in the web address, derekjohnthomas.com. You'll go over, you can see the spreads that I have on offer. You can order a spread for yourself, for a friend, for your partner, for anyone as a gift. And I would be very, very happy and excited to read for you, or your friend, or your partner, or your family member, your mother, your father. Yeah? Okay, friends, thank you. Thank you very much. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.